Welcome to BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth.
In access, we need God. Because only God can bring us out of this mess.
Beautiful day in the neighborhood. First name's Doni, last name's Glover. In it to win it for the long haul, baby. So we're here on July 19th after all of the moving of the primary dates. I think the primary date was moved twice, despite all kinds of tricks, games, in lieu of the new candidates who have swooped up into the state of Maryland and made their presence felt. We're here. Today is the day. It's election day here in the state of Maryland, the primary election. For those who don't know, we're voting for a governor, comptroller, attorney general, sheriff, state's attorney, delegates, state senators, state central committees, school boards. School board has been an increasingly important thing, particularly here in Baltimore City. Baltimore County has an interesting school board race. Prince George's County has an interesting school board race. And for the past several months, we have done our best to provide you with information. I certainly have my opinions, my slants, my picks, but I've also brought on people who were not necessarily my candidate. And beyond me, we have a team, including Mr. Michael Haney, Marsha Jews, Martin Mitchell, Richard Deshae Elliott, Yolanda Pulley, Jason Rodriguez, many of whom have covered this election. They brought on their candidates, people they know, people they've bumped into in the streets. And so we're pleased. We think that this news outlet, let's see, right here, Black USA, I think we've done a great job streaming. We stream 7 days a week. We have about 25 different shows on this network from 7 cities, including New York, Baltimore, DC, and that would include Montgomery County, Prince George's County, Atlanta, Miami, Oakland, and also Los Angeles. And so as we go into today's show, we would like to thank all of the people who have supported this network, BlackUSA.News, also Be More News. I got to tell you, I got some great news this morning. BeMoreNews.com, and you get a chance to take a look at the new website. We've worked very hard to make it happen, and we will be redesigning BlackUSA.News next. So be on the lookout for our new website and the new look. We think it's more effective, bottom line, better website. I'm reminded, and special thank you on that redesign project to Marsha Jews, I'm reminded that we have to step outside of our comfort zone, no matter how challenging it is. And on that note, I'm going to bring up longtime journalist here in the state of Maryland, Mr. John Rydell. Good morning. It's election day.
Yes. Good morning, Donnie.
How many times did the primary date move? It was twice?
It's never been in July 19th or something like that. Remember 2 years ago, it was on June 2nd. That was my birthday. So I remembered that. So how'd I celebrate my birthday? I worked.
At the polls, covering the polls.
And I worked very late that night because Remember, there were all these long lines, and they didn't close some of the polling places until 10 o'clock. It was an elementary school in uh, Northeast Baltimore. Everybody was lined up, pretty young voters, and they told everybody that we're not going to cut off the line. Everybody's going to get a chance to vote. So everybody was patient. Interesting, but that was June. This is July. It's very confusing.
And so you alluded to it. You're talking about the pandemic.
Sure. And then, they had all the confusion over the ballots that weren't mailed in time. And back then, everybody got a ballot. Every registered voter, they sent it out to their addresses. Well, 2 years, 3 years, I mean, people moved. There was a lot of confusion. Some people didn't get their ballots. And that's why they had such a large turnout on election day at the polls.
Now, initially, the prediction from the pundits was that the mail-in vote would be very dominant. But we found that on average, 20 to 30% of people actually use the mail-in. So election day has once again emerged as a big vote getter.
I guess so. I think some people just like the idea of showing up at the polls, maybe seeing people that they know, checking in. The people that work at the polls usually are local, so they know a lot of. Today I wouldn't do it. I mean, I got my ballot early, filled it out. I mailed it the next day so I wouldn't lose it. And the idea of standing in line with people, it's not for me. And then the COVID cases are on the rise again. My next door neighbors told me that they got COVID a week or so ago because they were involved in plays and they were around a lot of people. They're doing okay, but people are getting it anyhow. But who knows? I mean, there could be big crowds today at the polls. I guess it's too early.
Yeah, it's early. You want to read those stats that you came up with?
What stats were those?
The ones you sent me.
Oh, I happen to be watching a local TV station, and what's interesting, polls widely vary, and the Goucher College poll I think is very reputable, and they will partner with some other media organizations. But when you have a TV station that just says, "Oh, log on and tell us who you will vote for," or if the election were held today. Well, if you're talking about, let's say, for instance, the election for Baltimore City State's Attorney, well, there's no credible way of determining, do you live in Baltimore City? Are you a registered Democrat? I mean, anybody in the world could, if you don't like somebody or whatever, or you do like somebody, you could live in Falston, for example. And I'm just going to go online and support this guy. Or who's to say that you wouldn't be able to do that 3 times or 5 times? So I don't know. It just troubles me when I see these Insta polls or unscientific polls, because what's the motivation behind it? If it's election day, just go out, tell people to go out and vote, and you often have reporters live at the polling places, which is good. There's nothing to report, but you're showing that the polls are open and where they are, because remember, the early polling places differ from election day. So, if you're going out to vote, you got to double check that. For instance, the public safety building, the old Pimlico Middle School, Northern Parkway and Park Heights. That's a big deal during early voting, but they don't have any polling today. So you got to, make sure you're going in the right direction.
And we found out a poll in Sandtown that people were sent information to go to. Lillian Jones is closed, and it's been closed.
Right.
And Sandtown residents who vote there have not been notified. So thank goodness for Lucky Crosby. We broke the story yesterday. Channel 11 followed with it last night. And so let me just ask you, John, I mean, in a world where we have been historically dependent on newspapers and television, how are alternative news sources? How important are they these days?
I think they're doing very well, and that's the future. When you look at the Baltimore Banner, which is kind of had a soft launch, I guess you would call it, maybe a month or so ago.
They didn't endorse anybody.
What's that?
They didn't endorse anyone, did they?
I don't know if they did, and if they didn't, that's a good thing. For sometimes I think a newspaper or a media organization just should come out and say, okay, we're going to run this again. We already ran it, but we're going to have an objective look at all of these candidates, and we're going to grill them on the issues. We're not promoting a candidate. And then, by election day, you got to make your own decision. So, if you're a candidate and you would get endorsed by the Washington Post or the Baltimore Sun, like Tom Perez, hey, that's good for your campaign. Now you can put that, in your campaign ads, and you got President Obama, talking about you. That's, whether he wins, I don't know, but that's good. But I've always been skeptical. So I don't know if the Baltimore Banner endorsed anybody, but if they didn't, that's probably a good thing.
Especially being so new.
Mm-hmm. Right, sure.
So let's look at that for a minute. Tom Perez had Barack Obama in a commercial. Wes Moore had Oprah in a commercial. Mm-hmm. Is that a first?
I would guess so. At least in Maryland, it is. I mean, those are celebrity endorsements, obviously. I mean, President Obama, well, he was the president, but he was a celebrity in his own right. So those are good. But, you would hope that the average voter would just say, okay, that's very impressive. But what's he stand for? But I think a lot of voters, it's all about image and character. More so than, what do you think about the Kerwin plan for education? I mean, you want to, that's important to a certain degree, but I think a lot of the voters, it's just on image. So if they view Wes Moore and Oprah in a favorable light, and but they all have interesting backgrounds, and they're all diverse. But as I said, a couple of neighbors of mine I was talking to about the election the other day, and they're registered Democrats. And they said, of the top three, they said, any of those three would probably be okay as a governor. So I'm not sure who they voted for. And when I talked to the top three, we're talking about Peter Franchot, Tom Perez, and Wes Moore.
The running mates, I was really expecting to see some type of forum featuring the lieutenant governor candidates. And on that note, there are a few Black women running for that position. And what's interesting to me is it was Black men first: Michael Steele, Anthony Brown, Boyd Rutherford. And I remember asking Boyd about Kelly Schultz not having a Black running mate. And I believe he told me that that's passé.
You mean on the Republican side?
At least for him, yes.
Yeah.
I got the impression that it wasn't necessary, but that will be a question for Schultz if she should win, because she has the fight of her life right now.
Yeah, and it's interesting that ad that you keep seeing, sponsored by the Democratic Governors Association, that's basically blasting Dan Cox, too conservative for Maryland. He's in line with Trump, and he's anti-abortion and this and that. You wonder if that indirectly is sending a message to very conservative Republicans in Maryland. It's like, well, that's what I want. So I'm going to go out. I don't know who voted for this, and somebody's trying to criticize him for that, but that's what I like about him. Maybe that gets more. We won't know for over a week probably.
Let me ask you about
who won the gubernatorial primaries.
John, this is 2022. When Baltimore County elected Johnny Ochesky 4 years ago, he won by 17 votes. And I mention that to note how quickly and efficiently they counted those ballots. There was a recount.
Well, they 2 days after the primary, they started counting the absentees and the provisionals. But I believe then, no, I'm sorry, 4 years ago, not 2 years ago. So this was pre-COVID. So you didn't have a lot of absentee ballots. Most people went to the polls, and you got all those returns election night. And then we found out in a 3-person race, it was Vicky Almond and State Senator Jim Brochin and Johnny Olszewski. And all of a sudden, it's like, wow, this is really close. But it didn't take long because you didn't have all these mail-in ballots. So it was, I think it was only a few days. I don't remember what the initial count was, but it was really close. And then Johnny O won by 17 votes, which is really amazing. We're not talking about a city council district or a legislative. This is Baltimore County.
A million people out there.
Yeah, I mean, look how big Baltimore County is. There's the more population than Baltimore City.
But that's what my point is. They were able to count those votes expeditiously, efficiently to the number.
That's correct.
What is the problem statewide? How, for instance, we order ballots from out of state. Now, I don't know what it takes to make a ballot. But why isn't that done here in the state of Maryland?
Well, I haven't heard any problems so far this campaign season. I mean, 2020 was a mess. COVID just disrupted everything, business, schools, sports, everything. Now, why all those ballots didn't come in, I don't know, but it was an embarrassment for the state of Maryland. It caused a lot of problems in Baltimore City. And again, that's why I think you saw all these long lines at the polls on election day. Now, again, it's too early to see whether that will happen this time. But I think people got used to the idea of, why should I go and stand in line? I'm just going to request a ballot, fill it out, mail it, or put it in a drop box, and then I don't even have to worry about showing up on election day. So I think the voters had a little bit more experience doing that. And of course, remember, there's a difference between this year and 2 years ago. Everybody got a ballot, an absentee ballot. Every registered voter, maybe some people passed away or whatever, but they all got ballots. And again, that caused some confusion in Baltimore City. People couldn't find them, and I think that's why you had such a large turnout of people in person.
Are these ballots scannable? It was brought to my attention last night that the ballots they send out in the mail should be scannable.
Mm-hmm. I believe so, because you fill out the little, the little circles, which would indicate that you put them through a scanner. Again, I'm not an expert. I've kind of been away for a couple of years, so I haven't had a chance to talk to Armstead Jones and some of the elections officials about that. But yeah, as far as I know, so you hope that would. But the problem is, and this is, I believe it was kind of a political issue, that the mail-in ballots won't start to be counted until Thursday, 2 days after Election Day. 2 years ago, they started counting them, I think, as soon as they came in, because there was a secure process to do that. And I think if you are a poll worker or, elections official, I mean, I don't know if you have to probably sign a document indicating that under no circumstances will I disclose any of the votes or anything like that. I mean, I would hope that would be the case, punishable, because that's proprietary information. So, and that's why this year it's kind of complicated, but this is where we are right now. And so I don't think, we may not find out who won the state's attorney's race or the governor's race until next week. So, I mean, frustrating for, everybody involved.
Let me shift gears for a second, John. There's some other items in the news, including the sun up in the sky over in England and Spain. They have a heat wave Have you been following that?
That's extraordinary. Yeah, they had one of the reporters, I think on NBC, was over there in London today, and it said it was like 102 degrees in London. And if you ever been to London, I mean, yeah, it's usually overcast and rainy, and it's it's like 65 degrees. That's a summer day in London, a typical summer day. So yeah, I mean, extraordinary circumstances.
And there are fires.
What's that?
There are wildfires also.
Some, yeah, maybe not as much as in the West in the U.S., but I mean, I guess a lot of people will chalk it up to climate change, and our world is changing. I mean, Amsterdam, these European countries. Hey, if it's 70 degrees and partly sunny, that's a good day over there. So 102 degrees. We've had a great summer in Baltimore. I mean, it's we get these late afternoon thunder showers. It's 88 degrees. That's not all that bad compared to in the West.
It's been mild here.
Yes, yeah, sure. I mean, I've got a friend out in just moved out to Davis, California. He lived in Maryland his whole life, and he's like, it's 102 degrees out here, and that's kind of in the mountain region, and that's not too far away from where wildfires are. So it's a mess.
Okay. Also in the news has been Ivana Trump.
Mm-hmm. Ivana. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Ivana Trump, sure.
She fell down the stairs.
Yeah, that's troubling. Who knows? I mean, anything is possible. She could have suffered a heart attack. She could have just tripped. She was 73, so it wasn't old age necessarily. And somebody on Twitter pointed out that President Trump, former president, put out a statement acknowledging the death of his former wife, his first wife. She was a great woman and a great mom and that kind of thing. Down at the bottom of the statement, it said, and to donate to President Trump's Political Action Committee, click this button or something like that. I mean, I don't care, who you are, whether you're an elected official, president, city council. I mean, goodness, that's incredible.
Tacky.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
Okay. Also, J6 has been in the news.
Yeah, they've got a primetime hearing. I think it's this Thursday evening. So that'll be interesting. I watched a number of those hearings, and if you watch, every time you watch, there's a little bit of new information that comes out that you didn't know before. This Cassidy, whatever her name is, nobody knows who this woman is except if you're in the inner circle. And then she testified. Was very poised in her testimony, and people are, Trump dismissed her as lying and publicity seeking. But to me, when I watch these hearings, I try to be kind of like a reporter or a juror, and you look at this person and you're like, what do they have? What's their motivation to be there? What do they have to gain? Is it fame and fortune? Well, a little bit. Now people know who she is. But think about it. She's testifying against some of the top people in the Trump administration and the president, and saying that the president was unhinged and lunged at the Secret Service agent. I mean, how many death threats has she probably gotten? And she's probably has security. I don't know if she had to move out of, I don't know. So this is, I look at her and it seems credible. Now, whether that actually happened with the president lunging at the Secret Service agent, we don't know, because that's third-hand information.
He was choking out the Secret Service.
Something like that. But again, she didn't witness that. So that was, I think, another Secret Service person telling her. So if there was a trial, that the judge wouldn't allow that as testimony. But this isn't a trial; it's a hearing. But it is fascinating to find out what was going on behind the scenes long before January 6th. Roger Stone and his connection to the Proud Boys, communication these are hate groups. And so there was based on that, there was a real concerted effort to try to overturn the electoral votes through the states in different forms, and the Justice Department. It's pretty fascinating to watch these hearings, I think.
What does it say about America?
Well, it's important to have a free press, that you're allowed to look into that. And everyone says, well, the committee, it's politically motivated and that kind of thing. Well, most things on Capitol Hill are politically motivated on either side. I think we have to acknowledge that. But it's very troubling when you see that, whether you like Joe Biden or you don't, that electoral college vote wasn't close. And Biden won the electoral college by the same numbers as Trump beat Hillary Clinton back in 2016, whatever that count was. They both, Trump in 2016 and Biden in 2020, got over 300 electoral votes, and you only need 270. So it wasn't real close. But there were concerted efforts in some of these states that Trump thought he would win, Arizona and Georgia, and there was an effort to try to come up with these electors that weren't real electors, to try to skew those states so Biden wouldn't get 270. And then if not, it gets thrown into the House of Representatives, and then they would elect the president. I mean, you never want it to come down to that. And I think it happened in the 1800s. I'm not a history buff on that, but
John, you're not proud of this moment in our history.
Well, who would be? I personally, the Electoral College, how the founding fathers came up with that, it's pretty interesting. But think about it. Why is that democratic? The Electoral College.
It was brought
you figure
about
that let's have popular vote, and whoever wins the popular vote gets elected.
It was my understanding the Electoral College came about because of the 3/5 compromise, that had they not come up with the Electoral College, there would have been a lot of blacks whose vote, if counted as one, would change the numbers. And this is 2022. So we're 1865, 150 some years later.
Yeah.
Have we grown? Have we evolved? Sure, we elected Barack Obama. There are many people in the black community that says, whoop-de-doo, nothing's changed. But then there are people on the other side that say, well, hey, we have grown. We've grown enough to elect a black president, which is true. I don't know.
Well, to me, it's not going to happen to abolish the Electoral College. I think there might have been a better chance if the outcomes of some of these previous elections were different. Let's say in the year 2000, George W. Bush won the popular vote, but he didn't win the Electoral College. In other words, if Al Gore got 270 electoral votes or more, George W. Bush lost, even though he had more votes by Americans. I think you would have seen an effort by Republicans on Capitol Hill to say, oh, wait a minute, this isn't democratic. George W. Bush should be president because he got the popular vote. And imagine if it had been different in the election with Trump and Hillary Clinton in 2016. So, and I think, you'd have to pass a constitutional amendment. I think that would have to be, and again, I'm not the right person to talk to. I think Congressman Jamie Raskin is the real expert on that. And I read his book that he just published, Unthinkable, and he talks about what happened January 6th. And of course, he had a very tragic loss. His son committed suicide on New Year's Eve morning of 2020. We're talking
not
just
long ago.
a week before the January 6th uprising, insurrection, whatever you want to call it. So what and this kid was like in Harvard Law School, very brilliant kid, and struggled with mental illness. Real shame, as many families do.
On that note, John, I learned of a phone number yesterday. I had not seen it before. Have you seen it? The new 3-digit number for mental health emergencies?
Right. 988.
No, I thought it was 688.
Oh boy, we better get that confirmed. We'll double check. I believe it's 988, but if you can double check on that, and that's critical these days. We're not over COVID yet, and I don't mean people are still getting infected, but the economic impact, the psychological toll on people, on kids, on young kids that were stuck at home, and that's no way to learn, and we're still struggling to get out of that in many different ways. So it's not good to see that the COVID numbers themselves are up. But it goes well beyond that. And whatever this variant is, it's not as severe in terms of being impacted. The people that I've talked to that have gotten COVID recently, it's like a bad cold. And a lot of people are not getting fevers, but some do get a fever. So everybody's impacted differently if you get COVID. And I just think at some point, almost all of us are going to get COVID at some point, because we never reached that threshold where we had 90 something or 95% of the people vaccinated. And because of that, now, whether we'll eventually get rid of it, I don't know, because I just don't know. But
John, I just heard this story yesterday. Now, I thought it was 688. You said it was 988. I don't see anything online. Maybe I'm not searching. You said 988?
Yeah. I gotta double check.
You are right, John. 988 is new mental health crisis.
988. Okay. All right. Thanks for clarifying that. Yeah. Don't want to get that wrong.
I must have been sleepy watching it. 988.
Yeah. 988.
Maybe I just caught a bad news story. 988.
Yeah. 988.
Mental health, man, it doesn't discriminate. Everybody's dealing with regrouping, and then life happens. I mean, you went through a life-changing situation. Many of us have gone through life-changing situations, and then the whole world is going through it. It's not like we're the only ones. Everybody. And then imagine being in what's the place? Ukraine. So you got mental health crises already, and then somebody's trying to bomb your house.
That's just the most despicable time or situation in 2022. This is not the Middle Ages. It's not 1918 or whatever, Bolshevik Revolution. It's just the attack of a sovereign nation, unprovoked. Ukraine had no intention.
Was it unprovoked? Had the U.S. ever gotten so close to Russia that Ukraine was like, come on in? Now, the people over there know they don't like these people, and you know that. But you say, hey, come on in the back door. You can come up and watch them too. I mean, wasn't the U.S. a part of that? Didn't the U.S. get a little close with their missiles?
That I can't answer. You're asking me some international questions of which I am not an expert. But all I can do is to see the images on TV. These innocent people, thousands of innocent people. Look how many people fled the country. I mean, it's just extraordinary to pack up whatever you have, leave your house. And it's different from the migration from the Latin countries, where they're ravaged by poverty and drug gangs and things like this. These are people that for the most part look pretty middle class and are working and living in houses or apartments, and they're just being bombed, and they had to flee to Poland or whoever would accept them. It's just, and And you know, some people were like, "Oh, well, we need to go bomb Russia," and I mean, you know, but, I mean that's not the answer either, because then who knows what Putin will do? We don't want anybody to launch a nuclear weapon. But what a tragic set of circumstances.
What amazes me is the $50 billion or so we came up with out of nowhere to send to the Ukraine. And I'm looking at West Baltimore, and I'm saying to myself, doesn't charity start at home? Or maybe West Baltimore is just an emergency in my mind and not in most people's minds, until the firefighters get killed in a vacant house. And then for 5 or 6 hot minutes, vacant houses are the news story of the day. It seems like all of that was just a farce until people forgot about the 3 first responders who died in that tragic vacant house fire here in Baltimore. Everybody was, oh. And I'm saying, is anything going to change? You, John Rydell, you came here to Sandtown when the houses next door to me in 2017, April, were on fire.
Yeah.
You came and covered it.
Well, and I know as a result of that, there were legislators that showed up representing that area. Whether they did anything or not, I don't know, but it at least was put on the radar. And because we met with them, they were pretty close to where you live, and they gathered. And you haven't had that problem lately, have you?
Yes, there was a fire over on Cary Street in the 1100 block. Some addicts have been going into the second house. There's a business and a residence next door. This fire was so bad they had to tear down, I think, 2 or 3 houses. Amazing rebuild in progress right now. Clearly, someone had their insurance paid, which is important. I don't know, city of Baltimore.
Yeah. It's I can't tell you the number of vacant row house fires that I covered, and sadly, most of them were in Southwest Baltimore. And the problem, you had maybe 2 or 3 vacants, but then you had somebody living in the house, 3 doors down, and they were displaced. So that's the real trouble. And again, I don't, there's a difference between arsonists and people that are addicted in the winter and are trying to keep warm, and they've got and they kind of black out or something, and something catches fire, and there's combustible material, that kind of thing. But either way, it can be a loss of life in some cases, as you've seen. Yeah, very tragic.
The Squeegee Kid's back in the news. I think J. Wendell Gordon and maybe Warren Brown stepped up. Some may have thought that this mayor, now he's defending the Squeegee Kids. Any thoughts? Squeegee Kids. Man comes wheeling a bat. 15-year-old kid.
The first time I encountered Squeegee Kids was in the 1980s, maybe early to mid 1980s. There was all of a sudden they started appearing on some of the corners, not the corners that I see today, but there were other corners. And let's see, the mayor at the time was Schaefer. I guess it was Schaefer. They didn't know what to do. Somebody said, "Oh, let's take them to Squeegee school," something like that. They weren't aggressive. You didn't see any of the crimes that are being committed today. And then there was a tragic incident where, and they were young. They weren't, because driving around Baltimore, they're not, they're squeegee men in some cases. And sadly, there was a young kid was struck and killed by a truck, I think on an exit ramp off of the JFX. and it was a big deal story at the time. I don't remember what year, 1984, 85, something about then. And then for some reason, then everything kind of cooled down with the squeegee kids. And maybe parents were saying, wait a minute, you know, I don't want you out there getting run over. And then at some point it reemerged. But the troubling thing is, yeah, I mean, you know, what happened in the exchange before the guy kind of came out with his bat, we don't know. But the troubling thing is, it's one thing for a squeegee kid to, you know, they're being harassed to, you know, bang your window with a squeegee. This is a 14-year-old kid. He's a boy. And they just turned 15 and he's got a gun. So now, I mean, that the image of that is so damaging, and it's just troubling, because then, you know, in any group of people at an intersection, does that mean that maybe, you know, okay, you got the gun and you're the youngest. If you have to use it, you're going to protect us. And then just the other day, East Fayette Street, you had, was it 2 people shot and not seriously injured by a squeegee kid with a BB gun, pistol, or something like that? That's very troubling too. There's no easy solution. The mayor's probably caught in the middle of all of this. You know, you could make the argument, if I'm a mayor of a big city and this happened, maybe you should just sit down privately with the police commissioner and say, okay, we can't have this. So for right now, no squeegee kids at Conway and Light Street. No, we're going to have somebody out there 24/7. No squeegee kids, East Fayette and President, or Lombard, East Lombard and President. No, we're just going to, you know.
I'm just thinking, can't there be a way? I mean, I remember years ago, Jack met with some of the dirt bikers.
Mm-hmm.
I wish Jack would have followed up on it. John, what I see is a lot of time people get into these positions and then don't know what to do.
Well, think about,
and if you don't know what to do, I think you should stay out of the game. But when you step into a position, if you step into city council, I would think you're thinking down the road, do a great job here, and maybe one day you'll be city council vice president.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now, the whole time, say you do want to be vice president, to me, you're reading books, you're learning the manual, you're reading the city charter, you're understanding, you're talking with former elected officials to get advice and wisdom so that you can then prepare yourself for the next level.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like that, because they get there and they don't know what to do.
Well, but who? It's on the one hand, I guess there are a lot of public officials that they're just looking ahead. They're looking to get reelected. I'm not just talking about city of Baltimore, state of Maryland. I'm talking about Congress and you know, the shenanigans there. Their goal is to get reelected.
Period.
And who, you know, Mayor Scott, that's a, you know, I often wonder who would want to be big city mayor. I mean, I admire the people that want to come forward if it's for the right reasons. But how do you know, at some point, nothing you do will go unscrutinized by anybody. Squeegee kids, the trash and litter in certain neighborhoods, whatever it is. But I guess you have to take a bold stand. I mean, Stan, the squeegee kids, there's no easy solution. And when I say maybe the police commissioner should be directed to remove the kids from that intersection, you know, that's not a permanent solution, because they're going to go somewhere else. One of the squeegee kids was interviewed on TV. He says, on a good day, we might make $300 or $400.
I don't buy that.
No, I don't believe that.
Maybe the top earners do, because we know that.
I don't believe that, because that's, you know, you'd have to be out there for 15 hours a day, and I'm not buying that. But it's money driven. And yeah, you have, Hilton Parkway, the other known areas.
So if that's the case, why not engage them in some type of training program where they can learn some skills and get a legitimate job? I mean, they're hiring just about anybody nowadays. Even if you can't pass a weed test, I don't understand people not working right now. Everybody's hiring a job.
Yeah.
Listen, I understand America, but you got to work.
Right.
I mean, that's what we were raised on. Work, save your money, go to school, get something in your head so you can get a better job. What happened to these basic fundamentals?
I mean, when you look at the starting salary or starting hourly wages, a lot of these places, $15, $16 an hour. And some of them have signing bonuses. Remember, a signing bonus was only for, an NFL top recruit or a baseball player, something like that. A bonus, if you stay there 6 months, you get $500 more, whatever. And, I know you kind of show your age when you start talking about how much you got paid in your first job, that kind of thing.
$235.
Well, then you must be younger than me. I had this part-time job at a bookstore right near the University of Maryland on Route 1. And if I'm not mistaken, I was in high school. $1.75 an hour. No, $1.75 an hour. And then they moved it up to $2 an hour. And then if you worked overtime, at the beginning of the semester, that's $3.50 an hour, $3.50 an hour. First radio job that I had, $3.50 an hour. But it was experience in a field that I wanted to get into. It was like, whatever, you gave me this opportunity. So it's a different world. It's just, there's no easy solution. And I don't have all the answers, but it's just, public officials have to make bold decisions, even if it costs them the election. But, maybe they're too worried about, that next election. I don't know.
You mentioned Schaefer earlier. Isn't it interesting how Schaefer has become the gold standard on being mayor of Baltimore?
Mm-hmm. Well, remember when he was elected? He was elected, 3 years after the riots. So Baltimore was in a really chaotic state, battered. And I mean, we think things are bad today. Yeah, they are. But I mean, downtown there was no Inner Harbor. There was no reason to go to downtown Baltimore. Why would you go there? It wasn't like you were afraid. There's nothing there. So he came in at that time and then, started meeting with the developers, James Rouse, and what are we going to do to turn things around? A lot of it's timing. I mean, you have to give him credit. He was certainly passionate about the city of Baltimore. He didn't like how it was portrayed. And so, he fought to improve, starting downtown. And he was criticized for all of the downtown development at the expense of, other neighborhoods. And Billy Murphy brought that up when he ran for mayor back in 1983. His mantra, and I covered him back then. He was always saying, I want to talk about the other Baltimore. So, but Schaefer seemed to encourage Baltimoreans to feel better about themselves and to promote.
It's a game. Everybody plays. Let me tell you how to play. So you pick up the trash and you throw it in the bucket and call it trash ball.
Yeah, I mean, publicity stunts, but stuff too. And when you looked at when Harbor Place opened back in 1980, the national coverage was just extraordinary. I mean, you can go on YouTube right now and punch up Harbor Place 1980. That all the national coverage, Time magazine, and then you had people, visiting from out of town, people from
hey, Joanne.
And
You're live, Danny.
We live?
You're live on the show. Welcome. You're a little late, buddy.
I'm sorry. I had to tell you what happened. I apologize. Johnny.
Okay, come
Okay.
on, John. Finish your point.
Sorry.
So anyhow, that I think is why Schaefer became so popular. That he rallied Baltimoreans to feel better about their city. And when they saw Harbor Place open, again, we know what it looks like today. But at the time, that was, extraordinary. And, as a young single guy, you'd take your date to a nice restaurant at the inner harbor. And I don't know, I never worried about crime or.
Matter of fact, the city fair was down there, and other festivals
That's right.
They were held at the harbor. The harbor was.
That's right.
I remember he got in the water. He had the bathing suit on with the what kind of hat is that?
An old hat. I don't. And of course, that was it was a bet. He said if the National Aquarium didn't open by a certain date, he'd hop in the seal pool or something. No mayor today would do something like that because they would be, oh, what? This is nonsense. And he put his pride, aside and just said, no, I'm doing this to attract attention to Baltimore. And it was a different era, different time, but that was extremely important at the time. And keep it. There's another story. Harbor. There was no Harbor East. There's nothing there. And I remember John Paterakis was very media shy. He didn't talk to many reporters. And I remember doing a brief interview with him one time. And he said that it was William Donald Schaefer that encouraged him to buy up all that land in Harbor East because it was pretty close to H&S Bakery. And at the time, Paterakis said, why would this, why would you, there's nothing here. He says,
but now people
buy the property now. And then all of a sudden there are all these plans for a hotel. I mean, Harbor East wasn't even a neighborhood. And look at it now. I mean, extraordinary things. But even if you brought Schaefer back as mayor, you're still confronting the same problems. You didn't have, again, the squeegee kid problem, a little bit in the 80s, it quieted down, but nothing like today. It's just, these are different times. And I don't know who you could put in there. I mean, and I'm not criticizing Mayor Scott. I'm just saying, well, who are you going to put in there to turn things around quickly? We have the state's attorney's race and everybody's pledging to do this and that, but it's beyond one person's control. So, and that again, that could be another week or so before we find out who wins that race, and that'll be interesting.
All right, so let's go ahead to Baltimore County, see what Danny's doing. Danny Blount, how are you?
Hey, good morning, Donnie.
Hey, Danny, stop moving your camera. You can't move your camera anymore.
Okay, I won't.
Come on, Brooklyn. Come on, Brooklyn. Brooklyn. Time is it?
That's right. How you doing? Good morning. Good morning, John. Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
On this primary election day.
Yeah. Finally.
Oh my gosh! Finally is correct. Oh my! Where did we start, Donnie? What do you want to know?
How's it looking out there?
Well, I was out there earlier this morning, putting a few signs out, and the traffic is very, very light, very light out here. I'm in actually at the Deer Park Middle School. I mean, if we've got 50 people, we were lucky so far. It's a new dynamics because, of course, the early voting and the drop boxes, this is the new way of voting. This is what we're going to be seeing, I believe. I'm hoping that because people are at work, people are working from home, maybe after 4 o'clock, it should pick up, I'm hoping. But right now, it's really, really slow paced, very slow paced.
Danny, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, my name is Danny Blount. I am on the Baltimore County Democratic State Central Committee. I'm the bylaws chair. I live in Randallstown. I'm a retired U.S. Army veteran. I'm also, thank you. I'm also on the, thank you, my brother. I'm also on the Commission for Human Relations for Baltimore County. And I'm involving a whole lot of things political out here in this magnificent 4th and 10th Councilmanic District of Baltimore County.
John, any questions for him?
Do they
He's got
have
an interesting report.
the early voting center is a is it a normal polling place in what's it called, the Randallstown Community Center, which we often would cover on Liberty Road? That was an early voting center, but is there any voting there, or is it elsewhere?
No, there's no voting there. Which
Okay.
number one early voting place in the state of Maryland was the Randallstown Community Center.
Mm-hmm. I heard about that. Yeah.
Number one. We've always been in the top 5. We were number 1 forever. So if you want to get elected to become the county executive, to become a governor or whatever, you come through the 10th legislative district.
Right.
If you want to become a county county council person or county executive, you got to come through the 10th district. We're still a powerful district to be reckoned with in the regards of voting.
Well, I live in the 10th legislative district, so I'm pretty familiar with it. It's a huge district. That's
really
for
is
sure.
huge. But redistricting it got even larger. Yes.
But I have, through the years, as a TV reporter, you go where big crowds are. So if it's in Baltimore City, you would go to the public safety building, as I told Doni, the old Pimlico Middle School, Northern Parkway and Park Heights. If you're covering Baltimore County politics, you would go out to the Randallstown Community Center, and you would run into pretty much everybody. Kevin Kamenetz and his wife.
Everybody.
Of course, Julian Jones is everywhere, so you'd always run into him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a pretty impressive place.
Well,
Yeah.
John, Izzy Patoka now has the lower part of Liberty Road. So, and unbeknownst to some people, Izzy grew. I know he went to Woodlawn, if I'm not mistaken, but he has roots in that part of the county. So he's not new there.
Right.
He's through there, and Izzy does go around telling this one fib that he can play basketball, and I don't think that's the case. No, he's a pretty good ball player.
Izzy's a good guy. He's a good guy. I work with him a lot with Life Bridge. Some of the things we do in the community with the Gateway Park. It's a park on McDonough and Liberty Road. Him and I partnered on that a lot. So yeah, I've known Izzy for a while now, and to see him out there, he's out there all the time. Every day he was out there the early voting. Him and his son, So
in 4 years, John, Izzy could very well run for Baltimore County executive. Johnny Olszewski will be term limited out. He will have to make a decision as to whether or not he runs for governor or something else.
Or battle Julian Jones.
I didn't get there yet. I'm just saying Izzy got about 700,000. How much money Julian got?
Not that much.
Well, that's why I mentioned him. I mean, I tend to watch the
Yes, sir.
700,000.
But you're talking 4 years down the road. In other words, when Johnny O is termed out and cannot run, and we'll see where he goes from there. Sure. I mean, I can't imagine that you wouldn't see Julian Jones take a run for county executive. Izzy Patoka. I mean, there's going to be a long list of people, I'm sure, running for Baltimore County executive, because it would be an open seat. But of course, that's down the road. I mean, we're looking at today and today's election, and in the district that you are in, that 10th district, there's a lot of changes because Dolores Kelly retired. Very nice woman, covered her for many, many years, educator. And so we've talked about this, the race for to become her successor. You've got the delegate Ben Brooks, and was it Hassan Jalisi, others. I mean, do you want to make any predictions?
Lawrence Williams, don't forget him. He's
okay.
He was not embraced by the whole, but this one man has made his presence felt. He's not out, is he, Danny?
Well, he has a lot of signs. No, but actually, no, he's never out. No one is ever out when you're out there campaigning and trying to make
signs is a huge accomplishment.
It's a huge thing. As we all know, in 2018, there were no signs for who? Ben Jealous. So signs mean a lot. No big signs for Ben Jealous in the 10th.
And in 2018, y'all was stealing, not you,
No,
they were stealing signs out there big
they
time.
were. It was, and they still did a little bit of that now. But to get back to the question at hand about these folks that are running, you know, you have, of course, you said you have Jalisi, you have Ben Brooks and Lawrence Williams, Stephanie Boston. It's just a plethora of folks running for this seat. Ben Brooks has been endorsed by Dolores Kelly, of course. They have a unity team, unity ticket that's going on right now, and.
Hold up, I thought there was another unity team out there.
No, the unity team that's out there right now. It's the ticket is Ben Brooks for Senate, Adrian Jones for delegate, Scott Phillips for delegate. He's he's a candidate. Adrian Jones, of course, is already in office, and then you have Jennifer White. Jennifer White was someone who was introduced to the 10th district by Dolores Kelly.
But I thought there was someone else on Liberty Road using the unity team mantra. Didn't someone set up an office out there, put a sign?
Oh, okay, I got you. Okay, well, here we go. The office that was put out in the 10th district was by Johnny O. Johnny O put a office out in the 10th district, of course, you know, and the unity team is part of that office. He allowed them to be in that office with him, or they allowed him. Well, it's his office. He's paying the bills, so their offices together in the 10th district, and it's a lot going on in that office, to say the least. But I believe that.
I understand, Danny, that that Johnny Ocheski didn't just give him that rent. It was like, here, you can come in here, but you got to take these candidates who don't necessarily look like you on your ticket. Is that true?
That's correct. It's correct. One of the folks that were part of, or is part of the ticket, is a young man who actually on the Central Committee, we put him on the Central Committee. His name is Samay Kendra. And on the Central Committee, like I said earlier, I'm the bylaws chair. I'm also part of the nominations committee. And when there were some opening and vacancies for gender balance, one of the folks that we interviewed was Samay Kendra, along with Ruben Amaya. Remember that name, Ruben Amaya. He's also running for a delegate seat in the 10th district in our area as well.
He's got to be scary because his last name, John, starts with an A. So he's at the top of the list.
He's at the top of the list.
And then I heard Sheila Dixon put her stamp of approval on this young man.
I didn't know that. Isn't that interesting?
I could be wrong. Hey, I hear a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of stuff going on. But yes, Johnny has the office. The 10th district, the 10th district unity ticket is in that office with Johnny. He did bring along someone who he wanted to have on his ticket, which is Samay Kendra. He's an Indian young man. We put him on the Central Committee. That's how he first got introduced in this politics thing. And then after getting him on the Central Committee, one of the questions we always ask is, how long are you going to be on the Central Committee? Are you going to be here? Are you going to put your dues in? This, that, and the other. And Ruben Amaya, as well as Samay, said, yes, we're going to stay on the Central Committee. We're going to be here. We're going to support the party. We're going to do this and the other. And then they have the right to. They went rogue. They went right out there and they signed. They went to the State Board of Election. Ruben Amaya did. Ruben Amaya went to the State Board of Elections like 1 month after he got on the Central Committee. 1 month. And
so essentially, people look at Liberty Road as your upwardly mobile, most successful and smartest African Americans, but not if that's the case. I mean, you got big houses, but politically, you guys are like in special education.
Well, look, I didn't make that class. I'm in the class of my own. Some of the things that
Jay Jalisi, the guy that
oh my gosh,
he could very well be your state senator in the richest black part of Greater Baltimore. You're telling me that the black folks out there don't know what Jalisi from a hip hop fried chicken office.
Well, let's keep it honest. The folks need to be more engaged, more involved out here. I don't see it. I don't
Oh,
believe.
y'all left Baltimore City. Y'all left Baltimore
Wait,
City. Said Baltimore City was horrible.
no, I know. Oh, no,
Schools are bad, and then you get out
no,
there and
okay. No, that's not all true. I'm from Brooklyn. So I know what the inner city is all about, and I love the inner city dearly. But I will say that the unity out here in Northwest Baltimore County, in the fourth and in the 10th legislative district, it's really no unity there. Everybody has been doing their own thing. Senator Kelly, she was doing her thing, and then they allowed Jaleesa to get in there because they weren't really sound together, unified as as a political force, and that's what happened. Jaleesa got in, but I don't believe this is going to happen again.
John Jaleesi is the only guy in Annapolis besides Marianne Lasante who got censored. But he got censored, at least, I mean, not giving her credit, but it was clear what she did. Jaleesi was doing some mentally abusive stuff to people on his staff, such that the other members of the legislature said, hey, this guy has to be checked. But the people
whether it's the police department or legislators, they get real squeamish about having to discipline their own because you sit next to somebody on a committee. So when they do that,
they went way over.
Yeah, it's a serious allegation when your peers are saying, no, what you did, verbal abuse, ridicule, that kind of thing is not what we want in Annapolis, in the halls of Annapolis. So yeah, I mean, that was there. Through the years, yes, there have been others, censured, whatever, and of course, Larry Young was expelled. That's a whole other story.
That's a whole other.
Yeah, but yes, Jaleesi's colleagues said, no, we don't like, what you've done. Not that it matters, but it's a formal recognition that we don't like your behavior.
You mentioned Dolores Kelly. Dolores Kelly was one of the people that helped push Larry Young out of there. She didn't care for him too much. Kicked him straight in his butt.
Well, Dolores Kelly was, no nonsense educator.
She was my professor over at Coppin.
Yes, yeah, and well respected in Annapolis, and rose through the ranks, and but she's, I believe, in her 80s now. So I think for her it was time. There wasn't any. You reach a point where there's not much else you can do, and I admire the people.
Some people want to die in office, John,
yes.
And we've seen that.
Yeah, but I respect the people that stand up, and there have been a few through the years. State Senator John Astle from Annapolis, Vietnam vet. He was like in his early 70s, very moderate Democrat, almost conservative. Stood up on the Senate floor one night. He said, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. This is it. And I admired him. And then I talked to him afterwards. He says, why should I be sitting in a committee hearing for 7 hours, hearing something that I know is not going to change any minds? We know how we're going to vote. He's got grandkids. He's got a house in Western Maryland or something. Now, I admire the people like that they know when to walk away. Not because they're worried that they're going to get defeated in re-election. It's the other people that they don't know what to do with themselves. And so they just keep running. This happens in Congress too. Look at the ages of the people in Congress. It's, people in their 80s. Now I'm going to run for re-election.
And look at the salaries. Look at the salaries of people in Congress.
Right.
That's right.
And
that's
the perks,
right.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. The Senator Kelly, she's a great legislator, but one of the things, part of your legacy is that you mentor, that you prepare people to take over when you're gone. And that was an issue when they redistrict our area and there were open seats in 2014, that wasn't the case. She was doing her own thing, and you had at that time Adrian Jones, Ben Brooks, and Kern Smith, running as the ABC team for the delegate seats. They didn't even have Senator Kelly, supporting that. She was doing her own thing. So those are the kind of things that happen, and it cause disparity in the district. And when people go to Annapolis for Annapolis night, district night, you got to go 3 times. You got to go one for her, one for Jaleesi, and one for Ben and Adrian. That doesn't show unity. And when you see that kind of thing happening, people tend to run different directions. And there's nothing solid there that you can build on, or really know that there's something good going to happen with all these folks who we elected to look out for our benefit. And that's what the problem is in the 10th district. The 10th district has never had a unified group of folks to really stick together. That's why when they have this Unity 10 ticket here, we're hoping for change, different, so that once and for all, we can all be together and do things together instead of us all doing our own thing. And that's not going to work. It hasn't worked.
Bro, y'all need some fire in your belly out there.
Well, I think I'll make one bold prediction, but I think we can all agree on this, that in that 10th district, a lot of changes, but Adrienne Jones is going to win the primary, and she'll win the general election, and she'll be the speaker. Well, and, she probably would win re-election even if she wasn't the Speaker of the House. But I agree. That's a given.
Is it?
Well, I'll wager you lunch somewhere over that. Yeah, if you want.
I'll wager you lunch too, Donnie. I agree with him. I agree with him on Adrian. I agree with him on Adrian.
Well, hold up. The mark of a leader is not just creating an opportunity for oneself. Mm-hmm. The mark of a leader, particularly the Speaker of the House, is how many people you brought with you.
Mm-hmm.
Well said.
So if Ben Brooks gets his butt whipped, that's not a good sign, Danny.
Well, check this out, guys. What we do is I'm involved in this this committee called the Combined Community Advocacy Council of Greater Reynoldstown, and that's 12 different community associations. And so what happens there, we put on political forums, and the one that we had last month was supposed to be for the delegates race, the Senate race, and the school board. At the very last minute, and I was doing this, we were doing this in collaborations with the Northwest Voice, with Kenny Brown. We have worked on this for months, and at the last minute, it was told to us that the delegates and the senators did not want to have a forum so that people can come out and talk to these people and find out who they were at the last minute. So the only one that we were able to do was for the school board.
John, that's major, right, John?
That's bad right there, man.
I'm sorry, what's that?
That's stonewalling, isn't it?
John, you don't like to see that. I'm all about transparency.
Me too. Absolutely.
Let's just let everybody debate the issues. Don't exclude anybody.
Baltimore City, Baltimore County got some slick stuff going on out there too.
Well, that's what we talk about, Baltimore County. That's what I was talking about, and that should never happen. The people should always have the opportunity to listen to the candidates and be able to address them on different issues that they're looking for them to do and what are their platform. And that did not occur. This is the first time ever that we've never had a delegate in the Senate forum. It was canceled.
So much for unity.
Yeah, that was my point. You know, and then we had the school board, and this is the other thing I want to piggyback on in reference to.
And we got to wrap this up, Danny. We are way over.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I'm going to say about this school board issue. School board is very, very, very serious issue here in our district, in the 4th Councilmatic District. And if you looked at, John, you said you live in the 10th district?
Yes.
Are you part of the 4th Councilmatic as well?
Because of redistricting. That's correct.
Right. So you got all the literature from Johnny O and all that stuff with Samay Kendra, all on his stuff, supporting him, and around him, and all this, that, other. And what they did was they rammed him down the throats of Adrian. Adrian made a call to put him on all their literature. And there's 2 African American women with 30 years experience on for schools and stuff like that. Ran for office in 2018.
Speaker of the House did this?
It's all on. Well, John got it. It was all sent to our house. This is public stuff. I'm not making this up. What I read. It was all sent to our house, and I'm looking, His name is on everything. Now that's a nonpartisan position. Nonpartisan. Think about that. Why is he not only is he on the literature, but he's also in that office that Johnny holds, that the 10th District Unity team is in as well. So this stuff right here, you can't make this stuff up. It's real talk.
John, any final thoughts before we get out of here? And thank you both for joining us this morning.
Well, I guess it's just we're going to have a lot of patience. Hey, listen, you don't have to stay up late tonight, watch TV. You might as well just watch the baseball All-Star game. That All-Star games are kind of boring, but at least there's a little bit of excitement with all the home run hitters and everything. You know, why watch TV news? They're going to have live people there. You're going to have partial results.
I never even thought of that. The victory parties are a farce tonight, right?
That's yeah.
You could have a victory party, but you have no idea.
You have no idea.
You might as well watch the All-Star game
and
nothing else and see what happens.
You can stay home.
Some of that free food, right?
But let me ask y'all this. Hey, Donnie, can we do a closing with predictions real quick? Do some predictions. How about for the Attorney General's race, guys? Who you guys predicted on the Attorney General's race?
I think Anthony Brown's going to win.
Okay, Donnie?
Anthony Brown's running against someone. Oh, he's running against Martin O'Malley's wife.
That's right.
I know this. Martin O'Malley, they said you better stay all the way back.
Hey, look here, he just came out too. He was in a shell in a cave for a long time. He just came through the Renaissance Community Center on the last day of early voting.
I tell you what I do feel for, and that's their son. They have a young son.
Yes, they do.
And he's on Twitter often in politics. And I've met the young man.
I met him too.
Young man.
Yes, he is.
But he's grown up in a very political family. I remember the mother said regarding an incident years ago, leave the children alone. But I forgot his name. But the young O'Malley is involved now, and I pray the best for him for whatever decisions he should make. You know,
Baltimore County State's Attorney race: Schellenberg or Robbie Leonard?
Robbie didn't make a dent. Schellenberg was able to. I mean, I heard all the black people talking about Schellenberg. Robbie,
I think he wins. I think he wins re-election.
Did Robbie tap enough of the young people?
Well, that's going to be it's going to be closer than I think. I think that I think Scott's probably going to pull it out, but it's going to be notable. How about Baltimore City's State's Attorney race?
I think Marilyn Mosby wins, but not as much as she won 4 years ago. She got 49% of the vote 4 years ago against the two other challengers, same people, Tharu Vignaraja and Ivan Bates. And in a three-person race, regardless of what the incumbent has done or under indictment or whatever, she has a core group of supporters. That's my prediction. I think she wins, but not by a lot.
I tend to agree with that.
I will say that Fox is the biggest loser in that race.
Did they carry his books?
Because John mentioned scientific polls. John mentioned how it's supposed to be done.
No, I talked unscientific polls.
Yes. Unscientific polls. So when Fox comes on and says, Marilyn Mosby is the devil, Marilyn Mosby is the devil, Marilyn Mosby is the devil. Okay, who do you like for state's attorney? And here's Vignaraja's commercial in the backdrop. I've never seen a news outlet push a candidate down people's throats like the root. And then my problem is this.
I've never seen it.
So they shoved him all the way down our throats this time. What about when the mayor's race comes around again in 2 years? We know they're going to push Viggy again. And so I'm troubled with the fact that they just want to get him in there, and it doesn't matter where. And I'm supposed to believe that this guy loves Baltimore, the same guy that gets caught doing something uncanny, something questionable after midnight on Greenmount Avenue. I lived in Greenmount back in the 70s, and I've always known that's not a place that you play after midnight. And you
Not at
certainly
all.
don't take your girlfriend on Greenmount Avenue,
No.
on the strip, late
Mm.
night, on a suspended license with no headlights.
Yeah, that's shady.
I won't forget the hero cop who told him off over there in Little Italy during the town hall meeting. And the hero cop pointed out how Theroux jeopardized the careers of those officers when he called for a supervisor. You know, I don't, that's,
Well,
I can't do that.
It all comes down to Baltimore City voters. Those are the only people that can vote for city state's attorneys. So whatever public opinion poll you see with Theroux Vignarajah getting 92% of the, I mean, how many people logged in? How many people live in Baltimore City? There's no way to justify or quantify any of that. So to me,
So what does it say about a journalist who has to read that every day? Every day, the anchors have to get in there and they have to read what's on the camera.
mm-hmm.
Now, at some point, can I say, you're not a journalist?
No comment.
Yeah, that's kind of tough. And
Don't you hate when people say no comment, because you know what that means? There's no such thing as no comment.
No comment means I agree.
The people, the registered Democrats in Baltimore City will decide that race. And that's just, I mean, doesn't matter whether you watch this TV station or read this newspaper or online publication or whatever. People are going to go to the polls and say, okay, I've got three choices. That's it. Maybe I'd wish somebody else would run, or this person, that person. This is it. It's just like in the presidential race. You had Biden and Trump. And in 2016, you had Hillary and Trump. That's it. I mean, maybe we should have 4 or 5 viable political parties, but this is what you have. So, like I said, I think in a 3-person race, I think the incumbent will win. She's not going to get 49% of the vote.
No.
I mean, it could be 35%. We'll find out, but we're not going to find out for over a week probably.
Well, the thing with Johnny Olszewski back in 2018 won by how many votes? 17 votes?
17
votes.
Oh, so it doesn't matter if you can win by 1 or 17.
Yeah.
A winner is a winner. The governor's race, guys, what are your thoughts?
I just, for me to pick one of those top 3 is just to flip a 3-sided coin. I honestly don't know. I think either of those 3 people could win. And I know that sounds like a political cop-out. I just don't know. I really don't know.
Who would the Republicans prefer to face, John?
The Republicans, I mean, they would, well, the Republicans would want the most progressive liberal Democrat, but I don't think that's going to be an issue this year. I just, I don't see it. It's not like a race with Ben Jealous. When Ben Jealous won the Democratic primary, I'm sure the Hogan people were thrilled, thinking, oh my gosh, this is not what Maryland wants. Maryland wants a moderate Republican.
How about somebody who lives here?
You talking about Doug Ansler?
No, Ben Jealous. I've not seen him. Does he live here?
Well, I know what you mean, but I still believe, even though with that controversy, I still believe Ben Jealous could do a great job as governor.
No, I've not seen you. I've not seen Tom Perez in Baltimore since 2006. Me, myself. I've not seen him. I've seen you, John. I've seen you, Danny. I've seen you with my eyes. How the hell can I vote for you and I don't even see you?
I think Tom Perez made a cameo appearance at Zeke's Coffee yesterday. I saw an image on TV, but I think his strength is in Montgomery and Prince George's County. He was a Montgomery County council person. Maybe his campaign people said, you've got the campaign ads, so they're running in Baltimore. But in terms of personal appearances, maybe his folks are saying, this is where your strength is, so.
It's a towing cost. I mean, in 2018, of course, the Democrats voted for Hogan, and that's how he got in. As simple as that. They didn't have the support. He didn't have the support from the DNC or the Maryland Democratic Party.
Let me say it a little differently. The Maryland Democratic Party, after losing over the years Mike Bush, Mike Miller, Pete Rawlins, Clarence Blount, they lack leadership. You just said it out there in the Liberty Road corridor where the Speaker of the House is. There's a big question as to whether or not the new state senator is going to be the one she helps support or someone totally off. And if Jalisi beats Ben Brooks out there, Randallstown will be the 10th district will be the laughing stock of Annapolis.
Yeah, 10th district and the 4th councilman district, we are already one that I don't believe is respected as it should be. And it's because of decisions that have been made prior and them not having the unity and solidarity within themselves as elected officials. It's been that way since forever. And we do know with Ken Oliver and, Emmett Burns, I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on and on. It's all about leadership. And if you don't have strong leadership, then those things are going to occur. You're going to have chaos. And it's chaos out here in the 10th legislature. And it's supposed to be getting better. But some of these things that I've seen, it doesn't appear to be on the right track, because we should never be dealing with some of the things that we're dealing with in this election at all. But, I guess it's hard for these folks to kind of reset themselves. But I'm optimistic. We're going in the right direction. We're going to be in the right direction. We're going to get through this. Ben Brooks will be our senator replacing Senator Kelly and Westmore, and somebody is going to be the governor.
I'm with John. John, there was a lady that worked for Trump. Her name was Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley.
Haley.
Oh, Nikki Haley, yeah.
Nikki Haley said, I'm done, and left. I like that. She did what she could do, and then she got out. But too many people want to die in office, John. It's not your seat. Pass the damn ball.
And I agree with that. I don't believe that folks should be in the seat for 20, 30 years. I think Senator Kelly stayed in there too long. I really do believe that.
To her credit, she tried to pass the ball to Rob, and Rob stabbed her in the back.
It's more to it than that, Donnie. You said that on the show when I did it. When I, I don't know if you know this, John. I don't know if you know this. I don't know if you know this, John. But on the Central Committee, I told you I was the bylaws, but we changed the bylaws to where no elected official can hold dual seats anymore. So that we did get that passed. So no more holding 2 seats in Baltimore County anymore. I'm hoping and praying that the state has the guts to get that done. I was told that they were, but I heard there was a discussion and it became DOA. And but in Baltimore County, you only can hold 1 seat now. You can run for 2, but you can't hold but 1.
Okay, and you just to clarify, you're talking about you can't be on the Central Committee and a state legislator or a county council person?
Correct.
Okay, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we finally got that done in 2020. But think about those 30 years prior that Senator Kelly and the rest of those elected officials held it down. Nobody even knew what the Central Committee was.
Time out.
Go ahead.
I'm out, Danny. That's how the game was played.
Well, it came from Baltimore City and it infiltrated Baltimore County.
Okay, but that's how the game was played. Don't hate the player. Understand the game. The question is,
the game was changed.
The question is, can you make that work for your constituents in that district? Can you make
more people? Absolutely.
Because
now they're not running against incumbents, elected officials anymore. They just don't have to worry about that anymore.
Or did you cut your own throat?
No, because when you are a grassroots worker such as myself, you don't worry about those things.
You know, judges have to retire. They are forced to retire at age 70. That's a good thing. What about legislators?
Not Supreme. You talking about not Supreme Court judges? Wait, they older than that, aren't they?
Yeah. No, I'm talking about judges in the state of Maryland, whether you're, as far as I know, circuit judge, district judge, appellate judges. The chief judge of the Court of Appeals, who was an appointee of Governor Hogan, and he worked for Governor Hogan. He recently stepped down because he turned 70. It's not going to happen in state legislatures or county councils. I just wish people at some point, I agree with you. At some point, you have to say, why am I still doing this at age 70, 75, and 80?
Why have I failed to pass the ball to some younger people?
Yes.
Because I'm selfish. I only care about dying with a prefix before my name so I can get a famous funeral like Elijah Cummings.
Yes. You can play golf, you can travel, you can just go to the pool, you can enjoy life. But I think some people can't give it up because that's their persona.
That's their life.
That's all they are. And there's life after.
They need to call 988.
Yes. 988. That's the number.
That's the number. That is the number. You know, let's give some
hey, Bernie, you ain't taking over this show coming on late. Look, Brooklyn,
we
out of
here. One last thing.
No.
Let's give some. Vernon, you know Vernon, right?
For being late.
Vernon, right? Vernon, Elijah Cummings, legislative chief, passed away. Vernon, right? I just wanted to say that. God bless him. God bless him. That's all.
We'll be back later on. John Rydell, Danny Blount, thank you for taking time out. This is very important. We don't have to have the same opinions, but hopefully we've stimulated people to at least put their thinking caps on when they go to the poll.
10 days from now, that's when we'll find out who won.
I agree. And Donnie, I'm going to invite you, and John as well. You know, we have a radio show, Bishop Barry Chapman, and
I've been in about
co-host,
but I've yet to get an invite, John.
WFBR 1590 AM. We have a radio show called Two-Way Talk, and Donnie will be on there either this week or next week. And John, hopefully I can get you to come on and give your perspective.
Okay, you got
it. Donnie's going to give me a job.
Good deal. Have a good day, everyone.
Go vote. Enjoy. Take care.
God bless.